We're supposed to be doing a serious show, guys.
Yeah.
Can we carry this on into the show?
Okay. Let's do this.
Hi, I'm Brian Keith Dalton, and I took a left at the Valley.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. You know, we don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with the religious people taking over the world, I mean, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist.
Coming at you from some secret dojo, this is Left of the Valley. My name is Kevin, and I do know that everybody was Kung Fu fighting. Joining me is the intrepid ninjas that dwell in the shadows, ready to strike at superstition. And now she'll use her mighty nunchucks to knock some sense into you, Nancy.
Nunchucks. Are they gold-plated nunchucks?
Sure, why not?
I want gold-plated nunchucks, and I'm ready to go.
She'll come out your ass into knowledge, Teresa.
Hi.
Yeah, that's the part you say hi. And his shurikens are always on target, Scott.
No, they're not.
For the purpose of this show, they are. Guys, welcome back. Now is the time for religion to commit ritual suicide. Maybe. What is this called? Simpoku or something like that? I forget. You know when you cut your belly open and...
Oh,
I don't know, nothing like starting on a high note. Okay, kiddo, recover from that one, and on we go.
Welcome back. I wanted to let our listeners know that today we were supposed to interview Cara Santa Maria. Unfortunately, being the extremely busy person that she is, she sort of had to cancel. I will be interviewing her later on this week, and we will play her down the road for sure. It'll be a pre-recorded interview, but, you know, you can't. So we had a backup, and he canceled as well. So now we're doing a potpourri kind of episode. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different things.
Which is a good thing. I mean, sometimes you need a little pause, a little break, a little something different,
Yeah.
And now for something different.
And now for something different.
That's
We've never
right.
done a potpourri episode.
No, we
So
haven't.
I guess this is our first, after 100-somewhat episodes, we're doing our first.
Breaking new ground.
Exactly. So let's talk about it. Let's do a bit of chit-chat. Did you guys hear about Bill Nye? Love Bill Nye, the science guy. And he sent an open letter to Donald Trump.
really?
He did. Now, Bill Nye is the director of the Planetary Society, right? And his letter essentially says, let's go to Mars. So I'm very excited about this. He gave 5 points in the letter. He's trying to convince the president to invest in science exploration. Good luck with that, because we all know Trump is not all that much into science.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Yeah, but we could send him first.
Yeah.
5 points for Nancy right off
There
the
you go. He can radio back.
Impeach the president and put him in a capsule off the planet.
Well, give him the choice. You want to be impeached, or you want to go to Mars?
You know, Trump would probably make a good Martian
He'd
anyway.
make a wonderful maybe, there's a thought.
It's a very dry red planet.
Easier to build a Trump tower on Mars anyway.
The Trump planet. There we go. Rename Mars the Trump planet. So, in the letter that Bill sent to Donald Trump, there are 5 main points that he wants to the president to consider. He hopes that the U.S. are going to maintain the program of exploration of Mars instead of cutting back, because Trump has been doing a lot of cutbacks. Point 2, he hopes President Trump is going to direct NASA to make a plan for humans to be on Mars by 2033. So sending a manned mission to Mars.
He's thinking big.
Yes. He's hoping that the president is going to expand NASA's science portfolio and do more than just, a couple of satellites here and there, and do more science. He's hoping also that the president is going to grow the commercial space industry. Now that's interesting. The Americans are very fond of using the private sector for doing these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's already happening.
Yeah, but if the president encourages via some subsidies here and there and some programs, I think there's something to be said about that. And he hopes a 5% increase annually for the next 5 years of NASA's budget, which NASA's budget is pitiful compared to what
I think
give.
they've already slashed NASA's
I was just
budget.
going to ask that. I don't know, along with everything else. My next question was, did Bill Nye give some suggestions as to where the money is going to come from?
Well, money's could easily be found
Yeah.
in the military
Mind
industrial
you-
Well,
complex.
yeah, exactly.
One of the newspapers, and I'm not sure which one it was, but I'm thinking it was a pro-Trump newspaper, actually had notification that NASA took the least of the cuts when they were announcing all the cuts to the
Really?
government programs. Yeah, NASA wasn't hit as hard as the other programs.
Huh. Okay. But still, the budget of NASA is ridiculously small as what it could be. What people might not know is, now I don't have the exact figure in front of me, but if I remember correctly, you have 140% return when you actually invest in science and heavy science. I have a lot of people that always come to me and say, "Oh, why are they sending these rockets here and there while we have starving people?" Well, I can understand that on the surface, but you also have to remember that whenever you send a mission into space to study something, eventually something comes out of it. The GPS, for example, is a perfect example of that, right? Before they sent satellites into space to do global positioning systems, you had Morse code. Now everybody's got a GPS on their phone, and this is a direct link to doing some research into space.
Yeah, the byproducts that come out, and you never know. I mean, something simple, like remember the drink Tang?
Houston, we have a problem.
Yes,
Which was
yes.
I mean, I know it's
The
a
cell phone.
trivial thing, it's a market thing, but
It's not
it was a
trivial.
byproduct and people loved it, yeah.
Yeah.
So you never know from the technological advancements to little things like Tang. So
Well, if everyone enjoys their internet, which is what we're on right now, you wouldn't have it without the space program because most of the communications are done through satellite now.
That's right.
I
You
don't
know?
think there's any objection really in this day and age. It's how to fund it and whether or not it becomes a priority. And depending on who's in, whether you've got a progressive or a conservative, in.
I think I'm going to slightly
Yeah,
disagree with you, Nancy, because I think people don't see the link. They don't see the link between the cell phone and the satellite and the space exploration. They don't see that. So when they see a shuttle taken off, they don't have the shuttle anymore, but when they see something taken off, they think, oh, they're just going to go into space and put a few rabbits in orbit to see how the rabbits are doing, and that's it. But it's way more than just that. Way, way more. A little rent for that.
Well, it's a good plan, and we'll see over the next 10 years whether or not a part of it can be built in to the system.
Well, thank you to Bill Nye.
No, absolutely. Love Bill Nye. In other news, Kevin O'Leary.
From Bill Nye to Kevin O'Leary in
have
the
to go there?
almost the same breath.
I'm trying to use the compliment sandwich. Start with positive, go with the negative. Kevin O'Leary, he's the guy that used to be on Dragon's Den. I don't know if he still is. And he's running into for the conservative leadership. He just said that, just like a page right out of Donald Trump's book, that the thing is rigged right away. And he's saying that there's a whole lot of signing of fake members because you sign in members of the on the party to be conservatives, and they get to vote as to who the party leader is going to be. And he says there's a lot of signing of fake members. Well, duh, that's been happening forever. I don't know whether he's come up. That turnip truck just came around the corner apparently, and he missed this first campaign stop. He's lost his campaign. His campaign stop was in Winnipeg. He was supposed to be there. He missed it. And he Skyped in instead, and he blamed the weather and his flight was canceled. And a couple of journalists found out after that no flights were canceled. He was just in a business meeting and couldn't be bothered to be there on time.
Oh,
He
good. Well,
didn't think-
there's the first lie.
Yeah.
We can document
This
it.
guy is
He didn't think that anybody could check whether or not the flights were canceled?
He obviously thinks that people are too dumb. In the States, you know what? This might have gone through because it's exactly the kind of stuff that Trump was pulling off. But he doesn't realize that in Canada, we still have some good journalists and good journalism. And you know what? You got caught with your pants down. You're already, right off the bat, you don't have any credibility. Right off the bat, this guy's a perfect politician, apparently.
Good. That will help get him, in as the big loser.
Oh, I sure hope so. I sure hope so. I you know what?
Well, we all saw what happened with Trump, so I mean, what the heck?
I just hope. I hope we're better than this. God, I hope. Please, out there, any Canadians listening to us,
We're on our way down.
don't do that. I will shoot you. Did you guys hear about the Dutch election?
I was just going to bring that up as Scott was talking about Trump, and I was going to say, well, at least there's a grain of sanity in the world that we can turn to. So
that's right.
Ahead,
I mean, since Trump was elected, and just before him, the Brexit thing, there's been a bit of fears that the entire world seems to be moving towards a more isolationist position, more right wing.
Not populist nationalist. What do you call it?
I think it's
nationalism.
Populism, nationalism,
yeah,
something like that. Anyway, not very good. But anyway, the Prime Minister, his name is Mark Rutte. I think I said that's right.
Yeah, I think you said it right.
He won, and he actually pretty much destroyed his opponent, which was an anti-Islam, anti-EU Geert Wilders. He was defeated.
I was glad to see his hair go.
I just can't see two Trumps in the world.
The heck with ideology. I was so glad to see that hair go.
You might be onto something here. Is it the hair that turns a politician like that?
It sounds like it's the hair.
That's the hair. So any politician with funky hair.
No.
Not like nice hair like Justin Trudeau. Or anything.
No,
it has to be rude hair.
The Donald is the...
If you have a mop on your head, you're to be...
oh, well.
So there's been relief in Europe after this whole Brexit thing. So the people are saying, okay, maybe this is not too much of a trend. So hopefully we'll keep an eye on that. And remember last week we talked about the Senator Lynn Bayek? And
yes.
she was touting her support for the residential schools.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she just doubled down, taking back her words, and called it, want to say it? Fake news.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we going to do now?
She called it fake news. Right there. This is right out of Trump's book. The conservatives are pulling all the stops, and they're going to try to bring Trump-style politics to Canada. You've heard it here first. I'm telling you, this is exactly what's going to happen. So good luck to her. Deep breath.
Deep breath.
Relax.
You know how I'm relaxing these days? This sounds so silly. But in a animal adventure park in Upper New York, they have two giraffes, and one is named Oliver and one is named April. And April is 15 years old, and Oliver is the daddy of the new calf, which has an imminent birth. And there are thousands of people who are turning in to watch April walk around her pen in this extreme pregnancy state. And that's what we're all doing. It's calming. So, yeah, I've been watching for 3 weeks. I turn it on, and I just stare, into the screen and watch April. And it's so calming. So at least there's an antidote for all of that. It's giraffe therapy. What has the world come to when we turn to giraffe therapy for our moment of zen?
Giraffes don't have politics, so this is a good thing.
Hey, who says? True. They might have giraffe politics.
I have to admit, I've watched it as well.
You did? Yeah.
Yes.
You know what's going to happen to this, right? Eventually that calf is going to be born, and then they're going to say, "Oh, oops, sorry, we were pointing the wrong camera the whole time. You're just pointing at me."
They're wonderful because they're not intellectual animals. They're very slow moving, and they're beautiful to watch.
Discrimination against the long-necked here? What are you doing here? Giraffes can be very intellectual, I bet.
Oh, all right. Really? If you want to interview a giraffe the next time someone cancels on the show, more power to you.
Yeah, okay. New direction for this show. All right, dude.
I want to be there for the giraffe interviews.
That's right.
Time for this day in history.
Oh, all right. Here we go. Well, this day in history is going to be a history highlight because we're moving on to a lot of other little trivial and important things. So today I'm just going to highlight one event, and the event is going to go back to 1940. I think it's very apt in terms of where we are now. In 1940, Charlie Chaplin, the great Charlie Chaplin, his movie in 1940 was called The Great Dictator. Is anybody familiar with
I'm very familiar with his speech.
This speech, that's right. The Great Dictator had to do with a country called Tomania and a dictator whose name was Adnoid Henkel. And
was a
Charlie
spoof on Hitler,
Chaplin,
obviously.
Charlie Chaplin played the part of the dictator and also played the part of a Jewish barber who had been imprisoned for 20 years and didn't really realize what was going on. I'm not going to go into the movie because I would love everybody to see it. There is a scene in there that has to do with Adenoid Henkel and the globe, which is an absolute classic. And I think it fits in some ways what's going on with Trump. But I'll let you find that out for yourself. So in honor of Charlie Chaplin and the great dictator, and March the 15th, I'm not going to read the whole speech, but I am going to read the beginning and the end. And I'm not going to do justice to it, but I just want to give everybody a little taste of why this speech is so loved by so many. And many people call this the greatest speech ever written. I don't know whether but it's up there. It's up there. And this is given by Charlie Chaplin, who is sort of impersonating Adenoid, but actually he's still the Jewish barber. And he starts and he says, "I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone. If possible, Jew, Gentile, black man, white, we all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world where there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone, the way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way." And then the speech concludes where he says, "Let's fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead us all to men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite." 1940, and it could be something that would have been written, by someone
Could
today.
have been written today, absolutely.
So thank you, Charlie, and thank you for those inspiring words. And I think go ahead, and everybody who's listening, you don't know the movie, you can download it any place.
Oh, yeah. And you can see the whole speech in its
See
entirety
the
on
whole
YouTube.
the whole
The speech in
speech.
its entirety is very powerful.
It's extremely powerful.
It's kind of funny because I remember he's got an armband like the Nazi had, but
Yeah.
they're like two X's instead of the Nazi symbol or something.
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
two X's.
Yeah, so
Yeah, because it was a
it's-
fictional.
Oh, yeah, of course,
film.
But you knew what they were aiming at.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
knew what they were aiming at.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
and the globes, I can't, tout it enough. But if you've never seen what Henkel does with that globe, it's just brilliant, totally brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. All right. Do you want to go? Do you want to do the Quack Watch or?
We could.
Okay.
We could go right into that
While you're there, we might as well do
right
that.
while we're there. Okay.
Quack Watch.
Yeah, this week we're going to have not a really in-depth look, but I think pretty good coverage of a quack category, mostly having to do with therapies. This is called orthomolecular therapies. Anybody heard of that?
I've never heard of this.
Okay,
before now.
orthomolecular medicine, which is not medicine, but what's called orthomolecular medicine isn't a type or branch of medicine, but it's a set of beliefs regarding the role of nutrition and supplements in human health and disease. And they're beliefs that are generally not accepted by the majority in the scientific medical community, but they are embraced by a lot of people, and they've made a lot of charlatans a lot of money. The name, which is actually straight cell, comes from Linus Pauling, who won the Nobel Prize, who we all recognize as a wonderful scientist. But as Pauling grew older, he grew stranger and got into a lot of quacky stuff, and he was the one that started this whole belief about orthomolecular. And basically what it is that if a small dose of a vitamin is good, a huge dose of it ought to be better. And the way people think that if you're taking vitamins that are enriching your body, then it ought to enrich your mind, and it ought to compensate for any lack of vitamins that or nutrients that you have in your body. And one of the reasons it catches on is because we all know that certain vitamins are helpful. Vitamin C, remember back in the old days, people got scurvy because they didn't have
Yes.
vitamin C. People in the Northwest, like
Anybody
where we
gets
are,
scurvy.
we don't have enough sunshine, so vitamin D3 is helpful. So, like all scams and shams, the amount of truth in there is dangerous because it gets the vulnerable and the needy and the desperate into believing, well, it's science. I believe it. Yeah, if I can take a vitamin, it's going to have to help. Where orthomolecular therapy really gets into the into the quack and into dangerous territory is when it gets into mental problems. And there actually is a branch of this called orthomolecular psychiatry, believe it or not. That's one of the outgrowths of it.
Whoa.
Yeah, orthomolecular psychiatry is the use of orthomolecular medicine for mental illness. The approach uses unorthodox forms of individualized testing and diagnosis to attempt to establish an etiology for each patient's specific symptoms. So you can tailor, these guys who do this, tailor the amount of nutrients to autism, alcoholism, bipolar, depression, whatever you got, there's a formula that's going to help. How do these guys get away with it? They know exactly how far to get to close to the line. They can't say that this is used to cure mental illness. They can't even say that it's used for that. But what these guys do when they're pitching the product of the nutrients and vitamins and say some people have found this to be helpful, but we don't recommend that you give up your medicine. We recommend that you do exactly what your doctor says, and this is only a supplement.
Yeah, using in conjunction with, yeah.
Right, and that's how they still stay on the market. If they go over, if they use the word cure or say don't take your medicine or this is a substitute for, at that point, yeah, Health Canada as well as the FDA in the United States would shut them down, immediately. They do thousands and thousands and millions and billions of dollars worth of business in both countries. And about 2 years ago, a group of friends and I actually went to one of the seminars that was being held by a company called Q96. Have anybody heard of Q96?
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Okay, well, there's a guy named Tony Stephen that started it, and actually, when he stands up there and gives his story, his wife was bipolar, his kids had problems, his wife had actually, I think, committed suicide, and he has a very sympathetic, he's a gray-headed guy where you immediately, he's a guy that immediately, has the rapport that a lot of con men have. You immediately, he's believable, he's sincere, and he seems honest, and he goes on about how these supplements started actually from pig formulas and nutrients, and when he gets to the end, the people who were sitting there, he had some people there who were there for repeat business, and there were some there to say, please help me, I have a son who's drug addicted, please help me, I have someone with cerebral palsy, please help me. And we were sitting in the back, and we could see a lot of these people, as the speech goes on and on and on, thinking, this is finally, the doctors can't help me. Now I finally found something that will relieve the symptoms, for me or for my loved one. And I just wanted to get up and grab Tony Stephen and pull him aside and throttle him and then tell people, please don't spend $96 for a bottle of 120 pills that will do nothing and may harm you because they are an overdose. So Tony Stephen and people like that, if you hear the word orthomolecular, run the other way. It's just, it's something where they found they can fool enough people and put enough money in their pockets that they can continue doing it. To make it worse, the Q96 is also a pyramid multi-marketing way. So that's one way. Even if you never sell the product, you get a discount if you become a distributor.
Yeah.
So on two levels, the multi-marketing, the orthomolecular people can
There is a
get
lot
money.
of these products like that.
Screams of cult.
Well, I mean, there is a business model where they can try to get you to become a distributor and sell it to your immediate entourage. But from what I've seen of these, they're not pyramid scheme per se. They're multi-level marketing is what they call them. You can do it, but you'll never make enough money to make a business out of it. You'll make enough money to pay for your own supplements, tops, and that's about it. And that's, it's a way of distributing, and they're very sophisticated in trying to get people to belong. It's almost like you said. It's almost like a cult and a religion.
And the closer you are to the top of a pyramid scheme, the more money you make. The farther away you are, the less you're going to make. But they have the rallies, and they have the cars, and they have the stickers, and they have the discounts for traveling, and so it's presented as perks and benefits.
I've got a friend who is into a supplement called Isogenics, and she's a wonderful person, and the product itself is actually not bad, but they do have this kind of multi-level marketing. And I went to one of their seminars, if you could call it that, and it was totally hypnotism on a mass scale. And we're doing this, we're go, and there's this one moment I'm sitting all this and I'm watching, and there's this one moment where this woman stands up and claims proudly, and to the applause of everybody else, that she's given up on her law school and her pursuing a law career to become a lawyer to do this selling of the products full time. And people are applauding this, and I'm looking around saying, I just about stood up and said, you people are crazy, but I didn't do that because I didn't want to embarrass my friend.
That would have been dangerous.
Well, it probably would have been.
Yeah, but I understand, because I had the same thing when I'm watching these people, with relatives and, sons and daughters that have gone through years of mental distress or physical distress or illnesses, and they think, oh, the doctors haven't been able to help me, but if I spend my $96, for these pills on a regular basis, I'm going to see some improvement.
Yeah, and it's most likely going to be a placebo effect.
I've worked in the industry for over 20 years, and I've seen the majority of people who are sick or dying, they'll try anything.
Yes.
And they get sucked into it. And at the end, they spend thousands and thousands of dollars trying to save their loved ones, and nothing happens. We all can totally understand when you're desperate, for good health, desperate for getting rid of a mental illness that debilitates you. You'll do anything. You really will, because if the doctors can't help you, you feel there's got to be a miracle cure. And it's criminal for these people to take 100% advantage, because they know what they're doing.
And of course, the mentality is, what do you have to lose, right? That's the mentality. And to my great shame, I'll be the first one to admit, I fell into these kind of traps myself a lot, and I spent a lot of money at trying new supplements, trying different things. I was a big believer in nutrition and mind over body power kind of thing. I was for the longest time, but at some point, you like you said, if 100 milligrams of vitamin C helps you, well, then 200 milligrams is probably even better, right? But at some point, you start realizing that the science points out that you can only absorb so much. After that, it just goes to waste. It just goes, and this is why you're using the bathroom and it looks like you have radioactive urine all of a sudden. It's because,
Well, some of these vitamin supplements, if you overtake them, if you take too much, or if you already have enough in your diet and you start taking the supplements, you could be poisoning yourself.
Yes, vitamin A is a very good example of that. And there's also an issue that because we have industrialized a lot of our food system, a lot of the food that we consume is not necessarily as nutritious as it was 50 to 100 years ago. So all of these people are fooled, but they're fooled with facts in some sense, right? It's true that the apple that you have today, the way it's grown, is not necessarily as nutritious as it was in the old days, because it might be a different variety of apple, or there could be a whole bunch of different factors. But at the same time, throwing yourself into vitamin X, thinking it's going to solve all your problem, is probably a bit foolish.
No, well, that's it. I mean, people who are not scientists, and they're not chemists, and they're not nutritionists, they hear a certain amount of truth, which is true. The nutritious value of an apple may not be what it was 100 years ago, but that doesn't mean that this particular bottle of stuff is going to compensate and bring you to an apple a day keeps the doctor away and shiny health.
These
in
people
your future.
have the best of intentions, and they're trying to do the best what's for them, and they're trusting an industry that, although there's some parts of the industry which is actually legit, and they're trying to do good things and put good products. There's also another part of the industry which is a bit more iffy,
because we don't want to downplay, the appropriate use of vitamins and nutritious, supplements of one kind or another, and they're perfectly appropriate. But you've got to learn. I hate to sound like a grandma, but you've got to learn to tell the difference between fact and fiction, and not fall prey to something that's ultimately going to be harmful or do no good whatsoever.
Here's an idea. If your doctor identifies that you're deficient in a vitamin and suggests a supplement, that might be the right time to take that supplement.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. It's too simple, Scott.
Oh, perfect. Excellent. So thank you for that, guys. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go on to commercial, and then we'll come back and we'll do a spotlight. We haven't done that in a while. So we'll do a spotlight on George Carlin. So stay with us.
Hi, I'm the Supreme Irreverend Dr. Randy Tyson from the Legion of Reason Diversion. Join me and my co-hosts, Christine Shelska, Twyla, and Nate Phelps, as we explore issues at the intersection of atheism, humanism, and skepticism. Topics range from alternative medicine to the interference of religion in public policy. We often have special guests to help us understand the topic du jour. Previous guests include biologist Jerry Coyne, ex-Muslim author Ali Rizvi, philosopher Peter Boghossian, and the late physicist Victor Stanger. You can watch us on the Legion of Reason YouTube channel or subscribe to the audio version through your favorite podcatchers such as iTunes or Stitcher. And don't forget to like the Legion of Reason Facebook page.
If your skepticism is socially conscious and doesn't take itself too seriously, you might like Life, the Universe, and Everything Else.
Ray Comfort, his big stumper was literally, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
A lot of the interviews took place in front of a building that said liberal arts. I'm guessing that they're not all science majors.
Life, the Universe, and Everything Else. Available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else. I don't know, Zune? Is that still a thing?
Do you know where Saskatchewan is? Probably not. It's in Canada. If you do, you might know a city named Regina. In Regina, there's a studio. And in that studio, there are, at least once a month, a bunch of skeptical atheist geeks and goofballs who get together to do a podcast. We are the Brainstorm Crew, and we're trying to help spread a bit of reason and critical thinking while still having fun. Never taking things too seriously, but still not accepting everything we're told. We go through different topics, exploring them in depth, and often disagreeing. We try to stick to provable facts, and we never trust in myth. That's why we say we're woo-free since 2013. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, or Spreaker under Brainstorm, or check out our website, brainstormblog.net. I can't promise you'll always agree with us, but I can promise you'll have fun listening to us.
All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. All my friends are heathens.
And we're back. You gotta stay hip with the music, right? At least try. That was from the movie Suicide Squad.
Oh, I didn't see it.
That's up. It's called.
It's
Heathens.
fairly recent. You're a movie buff. You see everything.
Oh God, I wouldn't go that far. I do see a fair amount of them. I do like my movies. Yes. So anyway, we're going to do a segment that we haven't done in a long time. We're going to do a spotlight segment. Way better. So we're going to do this on George Carlin today. Spotlight is a segment we came out to try to teach people that instead of watching Paris Hilton and, Donald Trump, maybe you should actually start looking at people that are actually worth looking at.
There's a novel
There's a novel idea.
There's a novel idea.
And today we're going to talk about the legendary comedian George Carlin. Now, George Dennis Patrick Carlin, he's got 4 first names like me. It's kind of cool. He was born May 12th, 1937. He died June 22nd, 2008. It's already been almost 10 years.
Wow.
I know. He was an American stand-up comedian, a social critic, actor, and author. Carlin was noted for his black comedy and thoughts on politics, the English language, psychology, religion, and various taboo subjects. Carlin and his, you guys might remember this, his 7 Dirty Words comedy routine.
We think of them often, don't we?
That's right.
Greatest moment in television history.
Especially when it comes to radio and television, right? They were central to the 1978 U.S. Supreme Court case, the FCC versus Pacifica Foundation, in which a 5-4 decision affirmed the government's power to regulate indecent material on the public airwaves. He's widely regarded as one of the most important and influential stand-up comedians. One newspaper called Carlin the Dean of Counterculture Comedians. In 2004, Carlin was placed second on the Comedy Central list of the top 10 comedians of U.S. audiences.
Who was first? Did it say? I wonder who was first before him.
I don't know. I don't know.
I caught you unawares.
You asked me these questions I don't think of. Oh.
No, I'm sorry. edit me out.
No, that's fine. It shows my ignorance.
Yeah, but he's so far, at any rate.
He was a frequent performer and guest host on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and hosted the first episode of Saturday Night Live in 1975. In 2017, Rolling Stone magazine ranked him second behind Richard Pryor.
Oh, maybe.
Well, this is for Rolling Stone, though. On the list of the 50 best stand-up comics of all time. Richard Pryor being number 1. Richard Pryor was good, too.
Yeah, he was great.
In 1959, Carlin met Jack Burns, a fellow DJ at a radio station of KXOL in Fort Worth, Texas.
He was there just before I moved,
That's
so
right.
I missed him on the radio.
They formed a comedy team, and after a successful performance at Fort Worth's Beat Coffee House called The Cellar, Burns and Carlin headed for California in 1960. Carlin became a frequent performer and guest host on The Tonight Show, which I already said, initially with Jack Parr as host, and then with Johnny Carson. Carlin became one of Carson's most frequent substitutes during the host's 3-decade reign. He says substitute because often, just like we had experienced today, a guest can drop. So what you do, you have a backup plan, and Carlin was that backup plan for Johnny Carson. Carlin was present at Lenny Bruce's arrest for obscenity. Do you remember that?
I remember Lenny Bruce.
I don't really remember that myself.
You were too young for Lenny Bruce.
I was a little before my time, too.
Yeah.
So as the police began attempting to detain members of the audience for questioning, they asked Carlin for his ID. Telling the police he did not believe in government-issued ID, he was arrested and taken to jail with Bruce in the same vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And then the album FM and AM, which is one of his albums, proved very popular. It marked Carlin's change from mainstream to counterculture comedy. The AM side was the extension of Carlin's previous style, which was zany but relatively clean routines. The FM style introduced Carlin's new style with references to marijuana and birth control pills, a playful examination of the word shit. In this manner, Carlin renewed a style of radical social commentary comedy that Lenny Bruce had pioneered in the late 50s. In this period, Carlin perfected his well-known routine, 7 words you can never say on television, which recorded on Class Clown. On July 21st, 1972, Carlin was arrested after performing this routine at Milwaukee's Summerfest and charged with violating obscenity laws.
Mm-hmm.
Obscenity laws, that's just amazing when you think about this today, right? This show would probably be... In 1972, this show would be arrested for obscenity laws. And this show is really kind of clean compared to some of the shows out there. It's pretty clean. The case, which prompted Carlin to refer to the words at the time of the Milwaukee 7, was dismissed in December of that year. The judge declared that the language was indecent, but Carlin had the freedom to say it as long as it caused no disturbances. In 1973, a man complained to the FCC after listening with his son to a similar routine. Filthy words from Occupation of Fool broadcast one afternoon over WBAI at Pacifica Foundation, which of course prompted the whole FCC thing. The radio station in New York City, Pacifica, received a citation from the FCC for violating the regulations that prohibit broadcasting obscene material. The U.S. Supreme Court upheld the FCC action by a vote of 5-4, ruling that the routine was indecent but not obscene, and that the FCC had authority to prohibit such broadcasts during hours when children were likely to be amongst the audience.
That was an era where there was between Lenny Bruce and George Carlin and I'm trying to think of the black comedian who was had a TV show. I'm probably not going to think of it, but there were several of them that really went, past the barriers to set the ground, a new ground for the younger comedians. I can't think of his, but maybe by the end of the show my mind will kick in.
You're not thinking of Bill Cosby.
It serves me right. No, before that. He had the show that was based on the British show Something in Sanders.
I'm afraid
Red Fox.
Oh, yes, of
Red
course.
Fox.
There we go. Thank you.
Of course.
Whew, I knew if I kept talking long enough.
So do we know? So do we know the 7 words? Anybody want to say them? Okay. Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. Those are the heavy 7s. They will infect your soul, curve your spine.
You hear them all in every episode of every television show now.
We do, yeah. So he says those are the ones that infect your soul, curve your spine, and keep the country from winning the war. And that was a quote from George Carlin himself. Carlin unexpectedly stopped performing in 1976 when his career seemed to be at its height. For the next 5 years, he rarely performed stand-up, although it was at this time that he began doing specials for HBO. He later revealed that he had suffered the first of 3 heart attacks during his layoff periods. He was having heart issues. In 1989, he gained popularity with a new generation of teens when he was cast as Rufus, the time-traveling mentor of the character Bill and Ted in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Remember that?
I do so.
He also reprised the role in the sequel, as well as the first season of the cartoon series. He also played the role of Mr. Conductor on the PBS show Shining Time Station.
Seen it.
And narrating the show's... He's also narrating the show's sequence of the American version of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends.
Seen that as well.
I had no idea. I really had no idea.
I had children.
It was the American version, and he was replacing Ringo Starr. That was narrating from the British version.
Yeah.
In 1991, Carlin also had a major supporting role in the movie Prince of Tides, which Nick Nolte and Barbra Streisand, portraying the gay neighbor of the main character's suicidal sister. He had many other different roles like that, and then he abandoned his acting career to pursue stand-up, to keep doing stand-up. Carlin later explained that there were more pragmatic reasons for abandoning his acting career in favor of stand-up. In an interview for Esquire magazine in 2001, he said, "Because of my abuse of drugs, I neglected my business affairs and I had a large array with the IRS, and that took me 18 to 20 years to dig out of it. I did it honorably, and I don't begrudge them. I don't hate paying taxes, and I'm not angry at anyone, because I was complicit in it. But I'll tell you what it did for me. It made me a way better comedian, because I had to stay on the road, and I couldn't pursue that movie career, which would have gone nowhere, and I became a really good comic and a really good writer."
He was so honest. I think that was maybe the essence of what he was doing, is there was always an honesty, a human honesty to what he was doing, and you could read. You might not want to say what he said out loud, but you sort of thought it, and you realized, I've got a connection with someone who expresses life the way the crazy way I see life sometimes,
exactly.
too. Yeah.
Of course, he's received many comedy awards, obviously. In 2001, just one of them was the Lifetime Achievement Award at the 50th Annual American Comedy Awards, the Aspen Comedy Festival, the George Carlin 40 Years of Comedy, hosted by Jon Stewart, etc., etc. Excuse me. He also criticized religion, mocked traditional oath affirmation on the Bible as bullshit, make-believe, and kid stuff. However, in the same show, he warned, "You got to be happy, don't be proud, and there's too much pride as it is. Pride goeth before the fall. Never forget Proverbs." And that's a weird kind of saying he had all of a sudden. He described and derided the types of hats that religion ban or require as part of their practice, and remarked that he would never want to be part of a group that requires or bans the wearing of hats. Carlin joked in his second book, called Brain Droppings, that he worshipped the sun because he could see it and prayed to Joe Pesci because he seemed like a guy that could get things done.
Yeah.
And that was George Carlin. I've got a small clip here of George. If you want to hear George, he's on the show with Bill Maher. Let's listen into this.
I found a position for myself some time ago that gives me some detachment, and that is when you're born in this world, you're given a ticket to the freak show, and in America you get a front row seat. It is my opinion that at the base of most of the evil in the world is religion of any kind. And that is at the floor. And everything has grown out of that, and the hatred among and between religions is an example. The number of people who have died in the name of God far exceeds any other purpose, such as political or national interest that you can name, and generally they're mixed anyway. The religion is thrown into the national interest.
Sorry, George, I'm getting a ball game here.
I don't know why all of a sudden the phone rang for some reason on Bill Maher's show. So that was George Carlin, and that was our spotlight on George.
He was great. He really was. You can anything that he said, whatever year it was, you can pull it up and it still resonates, doesn't it?
Exactly.
I was amazed that he was always right.
And had the courage to say it.
So since we're doing a whole bunch of interesting little stories, we'll do something we haven't done also in a little while. We'll do
things that make you go,
Yeah, nice little story for you guys today. Now, things that make you go, is very close to another brilliant moment, but it's not necessarily on religion, but they're just things that kind of make you think. Now, it's no secret that Siberia's permafrost has been on thin ice lately because of climate change. Conditions are varying so much that huge holes are appearing out of nowhere. You know, like what they call those
sinkholes.
Sinkholes. And in some places, tundra is quite literally bubbling underneath people's feet. But new research has revealed that one of the biggest craters in the region in Siberia, known by the local Yakutian people as a doorway to the underworld, is growing so rapidly that it's uncovering long-buried forests, carcasses, and up to 200,000 years of historical climate records. Known as the Batagaika crater, it's what is officially called a megaslump, or a thermocrust. Many of these megaslumps have been appearing across Siberia in recent years, but researchers think that Batagaika could be something of an anomaly in the region. Located around 660 kilometers or 410 miles northeast of the region's capital city of Yakutsk. Not only is the crater already the largest of its kind, it's almost 1 kilometer long and 86 meters deep, and it's getting bigger all the time. Now, the researcher Alexander Gabiskev at the Alfred Wegener Institute in Germany revealed that the head wall of the crater has grown by an average of 10 meters per year over the past decade of observation, and in warmer years the growth has been up to 30 meters per year. So this thing keeps on growing as the climate is changing. The team also suspects that the side wall of the crater will reach a neighboring valley in the upcoming months as temperatures heat up in the northern hemisphere. On average, on many years, we have seen there's not so much acceleration or deceleration in these rates. It's continuously growing, and continuous growth means that the crater will get deeper and deeper every year. Now, it's not great news for climate change. The crater formation at first started after a large chunk of forest was cleared nearby in the 1960s. Because the ground is no longer shaded in the warm summer months, because the trees are gone, then the methane it heated up more rapidly than in the past, causing the permafrost to melt and the ground to collapse. And of course, it has a tendency to release methane at the same time. So this is not pretty. Any thoughts on something like that?
That's too scientific for me.
Has anyone
it's beyond my pay grade. Go ahead, Scott.
Has anyone here ever been to the north?
Well, how far north?
Where you would find permafrost.
No, not myself.
Okay,
no.
I have.
Oh.
Permafrost is a very interesting thing in the summertime. Now, in the wintertime, obviously, it's not an issue. Everything's frozen. It's minus 50, minus 60 degrees. In the summertime, when it starts to melt, you can walk across it. Where I was right on Ellesmere Island, and as you walk, the ground that you're stepping on would sink and water would come up out of it. And we found out how deep this went because we planted a few trucks by accident by going off the road. We built our own roads up there. It was a Canadian military installation, so they would build their own roads to wherever they needed to go. But if you accidentally went off the road, all of a sudden you were in a 6-inch quagmire. The wheels would just drop through the permafrost, through the ground, and it was water underneath. It was like a swamp almost.
Yeah.
Oh. So once you broke that surface, so yeah, and what's happening is that melt is going deeper and deeper and deeper every year, and it's causing problems because it accelerates the rot that traditionally has been frozen.
Exactly.
Right? So that's where the methane's coming from. And yeah, this ground, that water's got to go somewhere. Eventually, when it gets deep enough, that water's going to find ways of draining off. And when it drains off, that's where you get your sinkholes.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
So,
apparently, they found in that hole, they found the preserved remains of long-buried forest, ancient pollen samples, and even the frozen remains of a muskox, a mammoth, and a 4,400-year-old horse.
Wow.
In Siberia. So it's going to be interesting. Let me. I don't know if you guys can see from here, but I've got a little picture. If you guys want to take a look, this thing really looks like a hellhole when you look at it. It's kind of has the shape of a T. It looks pretty horrible, actually. Pretty bad looking.
That is nasty looking.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather read about it than be there. That's my scientific contribution to this conversation.
Well, sure, though, the people studying it are probably looking at the wealth of information they're getting from what's being uncovered.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's one of those things that we have a tendency, it's out of sight, out of mind, it's in Siberia, we don't care about it, but it is affecting the entire planet. That methane that's being released is not just staying over Siberia, right? It's going all over the place.
Yeah, and that methane being released isn't just in Siberia, it's all across the Canadian north and all across Europe's north. That permafrost is melting, methane's being released, and it's accelerating global warming.
Yeah, I think gone are the days when you look at something and say, that doesn't affect us. It's way over there.
Yeah,
way over there.
It's a small
there's a way of turning up under our feet.
Okay, well, let's finish the show with our usual Another Brilliant Moment. We just love a little segment. And I've got a good one today, since I've got two ladies here today. I certainly want your opinion. Do you guys know the little country that apparently is a bastion for women's rights called Saudi Arabia? I'm joking here. Saudi Arabia launches a girls' council without women.
Boo! You suck!
Photos of the first meeting of the Qasim Girl Council in Qasim Province, Saudi Arabia, shows only men in attendance. Of course.
Girls are too delicate to attend those things, right, Teresa?
I agree.
No, women shouldn't have any rights on what to say about anything about women, right? So the internet mocked the repressive regime after a picture of the Qasim Girl Council emerged online. The publicity photos promoting the event that was supposed to promote women's rights in the kingdom featured no women at all. Instead, photos of the first meeting of girl councils featured 13 rogue men on a stage. Way to go in Saudi Arabia.
Let's send Dr. Ruth Wertheimer there to help them out.
Don't go sexually frustrated.
Maybe they're transgender.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or at least transvestite, maybe?
Gosh.
According to the reports, there were women there, but they were kept in another room and only allowed to speak via video. Because, you don't want a woman to speak her mind in front of an audience. My God, what could happen? But that should give you ideas.
They're not allowed to be around men.
That's right. I never saw a religion that's so afraid of women. My God.
What, 20 feet behind?
Yeah,
yes. Oh, well, I thought it was 5 paces, but...
Big paces.
Big paces.
4 feet paces. So Saudi Arabia, where misogyny is the norm and women are treated as property, has strict segregation laws regarding men and women. I don't see any problems with that, do you? That's bound to make a healthy society.
Sure.
In fact, Saudi Arabia, women are second-class citizens, treated more like children than adults. In Saudi Arabia, women are required to dress in black from head to toe. They require permission from a male guardian to travel, work, and or marry. Adding insult to injury, Saudi Arabia is the only country in the world which does not allow women to drive. The only country in the world. A backward, ugly, mean, and repressive regime, the Saudi kingdom gives out the death penalty for homosexuality, denies women the most basic human rights, and commits many other despicable human rights abuses.
Wasn't it who was there from Saudi Arabia at the White House visiting Trump this last week? I'm sure
His
they
banker.
I'm sure they had a wonderful conversation about
yeah.
women's rights.
I'm sure
Can you
they did.
imagine Trump, upholding women's rights and saying, "Hey, you guys ought to have a bikini contest. I'll come and judge it."
Yes, right. In addition to the abysmal treatment of women and homosexuals, Saudi Arabia is a place where migrant workers are routinely tortured and sexually abused, while young children are frequently imprisoned and even executed without a trial. In Saudi Arabia, atheists are considered terrorists. Beware, the Left of the Valley crew will kill you.
I'll stay in Canada, thanks.
Yes, same here. And atheism is prosecuted as a crime with lengthy prison sentences or even the death penalty for anyone calling the atheist thoughts or calling into question the fundamentals of Islam. Because you can't argue with fundamentals of Islam. They're so true.
They're not on the travel ban, though. Interesting.
Really? In Saudi Arabia, there is no political reform, no religious freedom, nor freedom of speech. It is, in fact, one of the most repressive regimes in the world and an insult to human rights and human dignity. Bottom line, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and the image of the first meeting, the Qasim Girls' Council, is all one needs to begin to understand the depth of misogyny and discrimination in Saudi Arabia. Any thoughts?
Scary.
Not any good ones.
No good thoughts at all out of that story.
No, but you know what, Nancy, if you insert Allah in your heart, you will understand why you need to be wearing black and not speak in my presence. I am a man.
In your dreams.
What planet
and
are
not
you from?
good ones.
I know. I've just got lasers shot at me. Teresa and Nancy. Ladies.
Well, it's poison dart.
I'm trying to hide under a rock over here.
Yeah, you just...
You just stay there, Scott. Thanks for coming to my defense. Thanks for coming to my defense.
Be seen and not heard.
I've got another little story here. We'll close with this one, I guess. The GOP candidate, God wants Christian to rule over us. This is in the States, obviously. Theocracy alert. Pennsylvania State Representative Rick Saccone is running for the Senate because he believes God wants Christians to rule over the U.S. This is the problem with religion. They're always dominionist. You know, if they had a religion that's, okay, you worship God in your own home, in your bedroom or whatever, and you pray at your altar, nobody would give a rat's ass. But it's the fact that they always want to shove it down your throat. They always want to rule over you. They want to make the rules for everybody. There's the problem.
And the problem is that for the first time in at least 8 years, there is a majority, and that gives them a sense of power and entitlement. So it's tough to deal with them now. They're on a roll.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll eventually it'll fade. It really will. I'm optimistic enough to really think it will. But right now, they're on a roll.
That's exactly what he says. In a radio interview, he argued that Christians must take control of the government. Quote, if Christians don't get involved in government, the government will get involved in you, and you won't like the results. The government will run over you, and you won't have a say in it. I don't know what it is about the Americans being so concerned about the government like that all the time.
Like you have a say in religion.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, you have a say. You have much more of a say in your government.
I'm sure all those people in the 1400s that were accused of witchcraft and were drowned or burned, I'm sure they had a say in
absolutely.
Control.
And of course, they went to hell exactly because they wanted to go there too, right? So
mostly the say is, it hurts. That's as much of a say, I think, as you got in the 1400s. Ouch!
Any bets on when we start the witch burnings again?
Probably soon enough. I mean, it's still happening in Africa, right? So Christians have to stand up and make sure they have a say in their government, and they're protecting their rights and their religious liberties, which are being trampled on every day across this nation. If we don't speak out, those liberties will be taken away. You can see day after day, case after case. How incredibly delusional do you have to be? And I should ask that to even my own folks, because sometimes they're falling for this line that somehow they're persecuted. Somehow Christians are persecuted in this country, in Canada, and they are in the U.S. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? Where do you see this persecution here? I don't think anybody's denied a government office or a position of power or anything like that on the basis of them being Christian.
Actually, in the United States, it's the atheists that are denied government office and positions of power.
And by law in certain states, it's exactly what happens. So I have no idea what this
you can believe. And the funny thing is, you can believe in a God, in any God. I don't care what you believe in, but if you believe in something, anything, you can have an office in the United States. Now that is so hypocritical.
Yeah, it is.
So what's the difference if you don't believe?
Well, it's better to believe in a flying spaghetti monster than nothing.
I mean, I think that's a subject of another show, Scott. I really do. But we ought to, spend a little more time.
That's a very serious subject.
It's
very heavy.
It truly is. But I want to watch and see what's going to happen with Aaron at this point in Texas. I mean, I wish him all the luck. I hope he wins, but I wonder whether or not that's going to be a struggle for him in the state legislature.
I mean, I wish him all the best.
I do too.
I sure hope he makes at least a dent. I mean, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I think probably his odds are slim. But nonetheless, the fact that he's bold enough to do it now.
Oh, yeah.
And it shouts out to people that,
if he's just opening some people's eyes. That's something.
That's already a start, yeah.
Yeah, I think if there's anybody that, has the wherewithal and the intellect to do it, I think Aaron might break the ice, as they say in politics.
He's definitely got the intellect, and he definitely has
he does.
the ability to
speak.
We'll
watch it very closely.
Yeah, and I think there's also, it's I guess it's a topic for another show, but it's always been a problem that we have in the free thought movement and the atheism movement is we have a hard time sticking together. It's one thing that church does very well, it's a sense of community. Here, because a lot of us, feel a bit maybe burned by religion, we have a tendency to not necessarily go out and be as communal as the religious people are. We have a tendency to, it's like herding cats, right? And I think that works against us.
That is exactly what it is, because the fact that I don't have a belief in something is where it's coming from. I don't have a belief. Well, I don't need to share that with you. I don't need to form a group. I don't have a belief. Then that's my position, right? So it is kind of like herding cats, because everyone has their own position. They all have their own. Whereas in a religion, it's a shared position.
Exactly. And I speak to a lot of atheists that sometimes, if you tell them, hey, why don't you come and help us on the show or something like that, they'll say, hey, you know what, I was doing all kinds of things when I was in the church, and now I'm free of it. I don't want to get back into something like that. I understand, but at the same time, it's working against us.
Sure it is.
It totally is, and it's what I blame for one of the reasons why we don't have the numbers where we should have them today, because let's face it, when it comes to non-believers, we're a bigger minority than a lot of the minorities out there, whether it's the black, the Jews, or the homosexuals or something like that. There's many more of us than them, but yet they have all their own lobby. They have their lobby in the States. The Jews have a powerful lobby in the States, for example. We don't have anything. So if we actually manage to stand up as one and actually have a bit of a voice and have a bit of a lobby, the world will be a different place.
Well, I've been happy to see lately. I'm trying to think of when I began to see this on CNN. But Ronald Reagan.
You just went back there.
What's Ronald Reagan? What's his name? It's in charge with the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Ronald Reagan's son is now doing commercials on CNN. All of a sudden, I forgot his first. Not Ron.
What's Ronald Reagan's son? I'll keep talking. I'll look it up.
Yeah, no, he's great, and the commercials are well done. They're about 30 minutes, and then he talks about the fact that the group is available, for people to join, and then he ends it with saying lifelong atheist and not afraid to burn in hell, and it's on CNN. And I think that eventually is going to be...
Michael Reagan.
No, it's not Michael. Michael's the stepson.
Ron then? There's a Ron?
Yeah, Ron.
Is it Ron Reagan?
Yeah.
Okay,
that's why I was thinking of Ron. That's why I was thinking Ron, but it is Ron. But he's a very personable guy, and I think those commercials are eventually, not immediately, but I think they're going to pull people together and say, "Wow, he's on CNN. There must be something credible here."
Yeah, absolutely.
It is Ron Reagan. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of closet atheists out there.
Yeah.
There is.
I know of a great many people that I work with that are atheists, but it never comes up in conversation because we don't talk about it.
I think most believers out there, or most people that call themselves Christians, for example, in this area anyway, I think I call them cafeteria Christians. You know, they don't think about God.
Yeah.
They don't pray at night. You know, they go to mass once in a blue moon on an occasion because it's Christmas or something like that. That's about as much a wedding.
They're part of the herd.
Exactly.
They follow the herd.
They just follow the herd. They just follow the herd. People don't really give it much thought. And anyway, well, great show, guys. Thank you so much for helping us with all this. We had a bit of a pourri show. That was kind of fun.
It is. I think we ought to do this every now and then and give our guests a break.
Oh, you mean a break from all the great interviews we have? Yeah, sure. You know what? We've been giving you guys too many great interviews.
That's
From
right.
now on, we're just gonna
There you go.
We're just gonna give you once a month. Maybe we'll have a good interview.
Yeah.
And you should be just so lucky to have it. When I grew up, I didn't have any interviews at all, and I liked it.
No, I like the idea. I mean, now that we've done it, what do you feel about it there, Mr. Kevin?
Oh,
you like a potpourri show?
Why not?
There you go. How about you, Teresa?
I liked it.
Scott?
This was fun.
It's unanimous. We'll do it again.
It's always fun.
Yeah, it's always fun.
Well, like I said, we'll have Cara Santa Maria later on in another show. But next week we'll be talking to Jem Newman of Life, the Universe, and Everything Else. So that should
Very
be
cool.
It's another Canadian podcast, so that should be fun. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at LATV Podcast. You can send us an email at leftatvalley@outlook.com. You can send your complaints at nancy@leftatvalley.com.
Third floor.
Go, Nancy.
Anything else I need to say? No?
Nada.
Thank you, guys. Until next time.
I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. It amazes me how perfectly intelligent people can reach the conclusion that all non-believers are evil. What a fucked up statement. Do you realize what you're saying? But according to your book, this is how your God made me. Skeptical of anything that contradicts history, denies evolution, hates science, promotes mystery. I'd rather see the truth than to bask in my own ignorance. Rather be alone than surrounded by damn idiots. As long as there's a breath in my body, you can bet your last dollar I'll be working hard fighting this problem. Religion is a disease, it comes from culture, only true on a regional scale. Science is universal. Are you to say that Horus isn't real, but Jesus is? Or Zeus, Thor, Mithra, Vishnu, you don't believe in them? I think the reason is apparent. You do what you're told and believe in the God assigned by your parents. I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. Now let me take a sec, don't mean to sound so hateful, but I swear to God, pun intended, I find it disgraceful that thousands of children are raped by priests, and since they're holy men of God, they get away scot-free. And the Pope does his very best to keep it on the hush. Don't wanna affect business, he loves money too much. We know that they love the kids, but how the fuck can we protect them while they planning to molest them? We teaching them to respect them.
Fuck that.
The system is broke down, working backwards, and the only action or tactic I plan to practice now is to attack them. The parties of God's hands are bloodstained, millions of murders by believers, and they're all in God's name. And let me take a sec, don't mean to sound so hateful, but I swear to God, pun intended, I find it disgraceful that many atheists are told to be quiet. You're not alone, speak your mind, time to let it be known. I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist.